As your international president since 2011, I have been proud to also serve as chief negotiator in the master contract negotiations with United States Maritime Alliance. Together, we have successfully negotiated a two landmark 6-year agreement. Now, as our current 6-year contract nears its expiration date on September 30th, there's a real chance we won't have a new agreement in place. We could be hitting the streets at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. The shippers represented by United States Maritime Alliance might think the ILA won't go on strike. Let me tell them and all of America, the ILA most definitely will hit the streets on October 1st if we don't get the kind of contract we deserve. These greedy companies have made billions in the past few years, especially during COVID. We never shut the ports down during COVID. ILA members lost their lives when people worked from home. They went home and worked. Not my men. My men went to the docks every day, up and down the coast, to keep those ships going. That's right. And we lost a lot of them according to the virus. They died. And a lot of them got sick. But we kept going. And we kept going to keep these companies alive. Mark my words, we'll shut them down October 1st if we don't get the kind of wages we deserve. Container royalty, top-notch health care, and no automation terminals or semi-automated terminals. A good number of our ILA members working at the port from Maine to Texas have never experienced a coast-wide strike. I was around for the last ILA strike back in 1977, nearly a half a century ago. At the end of the 1974-77 contract, the hourly wage rate was $8. Let me tell you what we fought for back then. After a 2-month strike in 1977, the hourly wage rate increased 80 cents in each of the 3 years of the contract, so that the hourly wage rate was $8.80 in 1977 and reached $10.40 in the last year of the contract. Only after this strike in 1977 did the ILA earn and respect management, and hourly wages increase started to grow. Let me add this to you too. We were out 2 months, 3 months. They started diverting ships from the East Coast to the West Coast. Teddy Gleason put a bunch of group to send out to California and LA. I was in charge of that with Jimmy Cashin. Donald Carson took a group to San Francisco. What was our jobs? To stop the ships that were diverted over there, and we did it. We stopped them all. We got the people off the ships, we put up pickets, and that's the reason why we won that strike. And I want to thank the ILWU, Jimmy Herman. He allowed us to go over there, and he told his members to honor our pickets. So that's what unions do, the solidarity between the two of us. And I thank Jimmy Herman every day for that. It was a long strike, hard, very hard. Looks like we must get their attention again in 2024. From the calls I have received and posting I've seen on social media, I am grateful for the overwhelming support among our ILA members and their families. They have shouted in a unified voice, "We are ready to hit the streets."
All the way!
Just shy of about 2 years ago, both sides got together and talked about starting contract negotiations early. And we both agreed at that time that it would be advantageous to the industry to get a contract done prior to its expiration. And the reason why we did that is the industry thought it would bring stability to the East and Gulf Coast, which would not only be great for our members, but it would also be great for the economy of this great nation. After we had the original talks, our international president, Harold Daggett, gave our executive board a directive that we took very serious. And we started to do research, industry publications like Piers and Drury. We studied industry trends. We went back to contracts dating back to the 70s. We looked at what were our victories and what were our losses. We studied certain technologies and automations. And after that, we put together a very comprehensive proposal, and we were ready to negotiate. When we first sat down with USMX, we came in prepared, and we were ready to start negotiating. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case on their side. Right now, we're at an impasse. I mean, we can't even get past the economics of the contract. We are very, very far apart. We believe that we showed the world, our members showed the world just how valuable the work we do really is during the pandemic. And coming out of the pandemic, the carriers and the terminal operators, they reached record profits, but they don't want to share in those profits with our membership. And we find that offensive. You know, the hope was, when I gave my remarks at the convention, that for the employers that really know me, that they would take my words very serious, because I was very sincere and very truthful, and I spoke from the heart. Unfortunately, I think there are some employers out there that thought that was just a big show, and it wasn't a show. And I was sending them a message, and unfortunately, they didn't understand. And here we are today. We're less than 60 days out of the expiration of our contract. And those who didn't take us serious, come October 1st, 2024 at 12:01 a.m., they're going to change their attitude on that, I guarantee that. Nobody really wants a strike, but unfortunately, with the labor laws we have in this country, a strike is one of the few weapons that we have in our arsenal to use. So if we're put in a corner, we're not going to hesitate to strike back. Our international president, Harold Daggett, appointed me to oversee and get involved, if need be, in all local negotiations from Maine to Texas. I had to get involved with the Virginia negotiations, and I thought between the wage scale committee coming out of Virginia and us in the international with some help from the ACD, I think we did a really good job there, and we came out with a successful contract. I don't think the media has ever accurately portrayed the ILA, unfortunately. They tell half the story. A lot of times when you read articles about the ILA, when I talk about the ILA, I'm talking about our members and the work that they do, they only tell you half the story. And they talk about bloated salaries, and they focus on stuff, but they don't tell you the true story. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not a 40-hour job. And in today's world, we hear about this whole life-work balance. You don't get that in the ILA. And we're not complaining about that. We're okay with that. But just tell the truth. Our members sacrifice a lot with their families. They don't get to go to dance recitals or ball games. They have to work. And our members put in over 100 hours a week most of the time. And so when you see the salaries that are printed in the media, the normal person outside of our industry will say, "Wow, can't believe that's what they make." But they don't realize the sacrifices that our members make. And again, we're not complaining about that. It's a special kind of person that works on the waterfront. But if you're gonna talk about the ILA in the media, tell the public the truth. That's all we ask. I believe the main issues in this contract, of course, is the economics. The economics, our membership deserves a fair and just economic package. Also, automation, which I believe we're going to be battling for the rest of our existence, is a high priority issue. And we're prepared to fight against automation. We do not believe that robotics should take over a human being's job, especially a human being that's historically performed that job. So we're going to continue to fight that from now to the rest of our existence. I also believe there's a right of control issue here, because the carriers and the terminal operators believe that they relinquish all responsibility once a container is TIR'd out of the terminal. We don't believe that is the case. Now, the economics are the sexy issue. That is what our members need and what they deserve. But for me personally, if we don't resolve that issue, they could pay us $100 an hour. It doesn't matter. We'll have jobs in the future. So those are the three high priority issues in this contract. The current contract that we're in right now, We have full automation protections, and we have protections with semi-automation, but we want to tighten up those protections because we have found out that terminal operators are sliding in certain automation, which we believe is in violation of the contract that we're addressing now. But we are involved with dock worker unions throughout the world, and we see, because we're in a very unique industry where we all work for the same carriers, in some cases the same marine terminal operators, and we see the automation that they're implementing in certain ports, and we're not going to allow that cancer to come here on the East Coast. Do I believe that we're going to get support from the international dock worker movement? My answer to that is, without a doubt, we're going to get support from the international dock worker movement. Now, I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I will tell you this. It is going to be the biggest display of international solidarity that this world has ever seen. Contrary to what the employers will have the public think, I believe 100% that the vast majority of our members will support the international if we have to go on strike come October 1st. Currently, the relationship between the ILA and the employers is pretty fragile. We do have ILA-friendly employers that we still work with really well, but there are those out there that still don't respect us, don't respect our membership, don't respect the work that we do. And those employers that send our members on the hill or on the bench for 60 or 90 days for minor infractions, I promise you that come October 1st, 2024 at 12:01 a.m., they'll have a different attitude towards the ILA. I promise you that. Pension obviously is always a big issue because we want our retirees to retire with a dignified pension. The defined benefit pensions are handled locally at each of the 14 ports. In this current contract, in the previous negotiation, we negotiated a nationwide defined contribution, which we call an annuity or a money purchase plan. And we plan on adding to that as well, because like I said, we think our members deserve to retire with dignity after putting so many years. You know, our workforce and our membership, they don't work 15, 20 years like most industries. They work 30, 35, 40, 50 years in some cases. So yes, our locals, our international, and both our districts are going to fight for dignified pensions for our rank and file. We're having wage scale meetings on September 4th and 5th, and we put together a very comprehensive strike mobilization plan that we'll be coordinating with all the locals up and down the coast, and we'll be using our vice presidents as contact people in those ports. And I can't get into the details of that, you know, especially on this film, but we will be sharing that with the wage scale committee, and it is a very organized and strategic plan. There's a lot of talk in the industry right now how our membership is a young workforce, much younger than it has been in recent times with the retirements of the baby boomer generation. And people say, well, this new workforce, they can't handle a strike, they've never been a part of a strike. There may be even some wildcats, but they've never seen an actual coast-wide strike. Well, the same could be said for the other side of the table, and the marine terminal operators. So I believe they're feeling the effects now. There's a big logger jam on the rail on the West Coast. With the conflict that's in the Red Sea, now the fleets have to go around the southern tip of Africa. Their fleets are completely exhausted. It's very, very difficult for them to divert cargo to the West Coast right now. There's major delays. They've made the peak season a lot earlier now because of the threat of a strike. So they're feeling the pain now. Come October 1st, they're going to feel it even more. So I can't predict how long the strike would be. I can't predict, you know, government intervention. I can't predict any of that. That's why they need to get really serious about sitting down with us and make it at the table and negotiating a fair and just contract for the members of the ILA. Right now, we're at a major impasse at Mobile, Alabama, where we caught APM terminals undermining our contract with some automation that we believe is in violation of the contract. So we're working through that, but right now we're at an impasse, and I can't see us agreeing to any contract without these local contracts being resolved. The South Atlantic region is a very, very important piece to this whole industry. And right now, we're about 90% done there, but we still have some work. Again, I don't think the employers are taking it serious enough. It should have been done already. Here we are, almost 60 days to the expiration of the contract, and we're not done there. So technically, we're at an impasse there as well. We just resolved Boston yesterday, which is great. That's out of the way. Philadelphia, we're at an impasse right now that we're continuing to work on. That could be a major problem come the expiration of the contract. In South Florida, we have one piece there that we're trying to work out, and also in Tampa. Tampa's an issue, and Jacksonville also is an issue that we're trying to work through, and right now we're at an impasse. And these contracts must be resolved before October 1st. In my tenure here in the ILA, we always seem to think that the contract that we're negotiating is the most important. But I really believe that this one is the most important. And I think the mistakes that we made in the past as a union is we spent so much time and energy negotiating the master contract that we negotiated the locals after the fact. And I think at that time, the employers didn't have the appetite or the energy to negotiate with us. And there's a no strike clause in the master contract. So I think they took advantage of that. So this go around, because USMX wasn't prepared enough, we kind of thought outside of the box, and we said this is a great opportunity to negotiate the locals before the master contract. And now the locals are doing a great job in negotiating what they rightfully deserve for the first time in a very, very long time. And that's why I think it seems so contentious, but it's long overdue for the results that we're hoping for. I was very concerned about Virginia. Virginia was one of the ports where they initially started putting in semi-automation back in the mid-2000s, when we didn't have the greatest, it was under a different administration, and we didn't have the greatest automation protections then. And unfortunately, that port had inherited, and they've had to live with it since then. So I was very, very concerned about that port. It was one of my major concerns. Where they did reach an impasse, and the International and USMX, we sent a directive out for have them come up here to negotiate. Our side has a very good team there, and we assisted in those negotiations. But I have to give credit to both sides. It was contentious at times. It was long. It was drawn out. It was exhausting. But at the end of the day, I think we reached the best local agreement that the Port of Virginia has ever seen. I've learned that we need, as an industry, we need to do a better job at meeting and communicating throughout the term of the contract. And what I mean by that is, if you don't sit down at least 3 times a year with the other side and talk about issues and problems, these things fester. And by the end of the contract, in this case, the term is 6 years, there's a lot of animosity builds up. And we don't have the luxury like the employers where they can lay us off. When they can lay us off, they cut our hours. We don't have the luxury in the contract to say, hey, we want you to pay us more, or we want you to add manning here. We have to respect and live by the terms of the agreement. So the only time we can do that is in bargaining. So if the employers don't address problems throughout the contract, then this is what happens. There's a lot of animosity at the end. And this is our only time where we can bargain to make change.
When I get done with our contract for the ILA, I'm gonna form an alliance throughout the world with every dock working union in the world, around the world. We're gonna go to Portugal. We're gonna get the IDC there. We're gonna get all the unions in Europe, Asia, Australia, around the world to meet in Portugal. Going to get the ITF. I'm going to ask the seamen to come who run all the ships, all those unions. Why? I'll tell you why. Because in today's world, you have 3 big companies that want to push automation on everybody. Well, I've had it up to here. The only way we can fight this is by having this alliance. I'm working on it now with Dennis and Jordy. We're trying to put it all together. What it's going to be like is, let's take a company, Maersk Line. Let's say they want to go into Chile and build a fully automated terminal. Well, if that's going to happen, this alliance now will kick in and we will shut down Maersk throughout the world. Think about that. Shut them down around the whole world for picking on Chile, or Europe, or Spain, or France. Pick out a country, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's Maersk, Maritime Shipping, CMA. If they go to put a fully automated terminal in, or the United States, we are gonna shut them down around the world and put them out of business. Now, we might shut them down for 3 weeks to send them a strong message. None of your ships are gonna move. But if they think they're gonna keep going and putting on fully automated terminals and knocking out great jobs that dock workers have worked for 200 years to bring these people to where they are today, and now it's all about greed and money, they don't need us no more. They wanna put a fully automated terminal in and get rid of us. I'm not gonna allow that. I will never allow that. You understand me? So this is a must. We're gonna have this alliance and we're gonna make it work. We're gonna show the companies we have the power, not you. We will tell you, you are not gonna do it no more.